The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just the ghost of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghost of you and me. Of you and me.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
Tonight's episode is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. This is one of those that's going to be real sciencey and heady and kind of complex, but it's not going to be very hard to understand once I break it down. And at the end of the article, I will give you a bare bones, common language, easy explanation of exactly what this is. Most of you will be able to understand the article. It's not that bad, but I'll go ahead and simplify it anyway at the end. This is also one of those that's going to be entirely theoretical. It is based on sound science, but what they're talking about in this article has not been done yet. So we're free to kind of play the what if game, which is always a hell of a lot of fun. So tonight we're going to be talking about immortality and science's quest to achieve it and how they're planning on doing that. It's a very fascinating subject, and this is going to be a good show. So here we go. Tonight's article comes from Nerdist.com from the science and the tech section, and the headline is Dyson Sphere may be the key to human immortality. It was written by Matthew Hart, and it was published on March 11th, 2021. Russian life extensionist Alexei Turchin experienced the loss of a classmate firsthand when he was young. Ever since, he's been on a mission to figure out how to make humans, like the Greek gods, immortal. And the latest iteration of the transhumanist roadmap to immortality involves, of course, a veritable sci-fi blend of superintelligent AI, universe simulations, and Dyson Spheres, the hypothetical megastructures that completely encompass stars. Turchin and fellow transhumanists Maxim Chernyakov outline several future paths towards immortality in a paper they recently self-published. The paper, which comes via Popular Mechanics, is titled Classification of Approaches to Technological Resurrection, and offers several ways people could theoretically not only defy death, but more fantastically, come back from the dead. Death seems to be a permanent event, but there's no actual proof of its irreversibility. The author's right. And while no method is currently possible, many may become feasible with future technological development. The authors explore both conventional and speculative ways of making humanity immortal, from cryogenics, shout out to Futurama, and all the times it made our brains freeze, to uploading our brains into the cloud, and then ultimately back into cloned bodies. Aside from the cryogenics approach, Turchin and Chernyakov say strong AI will be essential for life after death. That is, being alive back in this life after death, whatever this life is. The superintelligent form of AI, which could very well arise in our lifetime, would be instrumental in, say, uploading people's consciousness to the cloud and then running them in simulated universes, a la Black Mirror's San Junipero episode. But the power demands required for that kind of AI, the authors say, would be gargantuan. And while Tesla batteries are popping off production lines at quite a clip, they just wouldn't cut it. That's where the Dyson Spheres, shell-shaped solar panels encompassing stars, absorbing their energy, would come in. The spheres, theorized by theoretical physicist Freeman Dyson, could come in multiple flavors, two of which are above. The one immediately above shows a swarm of solar panels around a star, and while humanity is likely to build neither in our lifetimes, if superintelligent AI does come online anyway, it could probably handle the task, no problem. And that is the end of this article. Now, most of you probably easily understood that. But just in case there's anybody that didn't, this is super, super simple. What they're talking about doing is building a Dyson Sphere. Now, a Dyson Sphere is a very large structure that completely surrounds a star. And what it does is it harnesses and uses the majority of that star's energy. So essentially what you're talking about is a giant space battery. That's what the star is turned into, is a giant battery, so we can harness its energy. They want to do that because they believe that a form of super AI, which is just super artificial intelligence, is going to require a massive amount of power in order to build this simulated universe that they want to pluck your consciousness, I guess you would say, your memories, your mind out of your body and upload them to the cloud and then deposit that into this simulated universe. So what we're talking here is essentially a giant game of Sims with you as a character. It's your thoughts, your mind, uploaded into the cloud and put into this simulation. Eventually what they want to be able to do is to clone human bodies and reinsert your consciousness back into a human body again. So you'll be able to live in another body. So that is what they're talking about here. They also mentioned cryogenics, but they're just talking about another way they might be able to achieve immortality with that. But in a nutshell, that's what this is about. So a few things that I would like to discuss and go over as far as this is concerned. First of all, with Dyson Spheres, theoretically, and I say theoretically because we have never built one. This is all theory. They theoretically believe that that might be one of the ways that alien civilizations are able to power their craft, is by creating these Dyson Spheres and stopping by a nearby star, popping one up, and then refueling, basically. We have never built one. We do not have the industrial capability to produce the amount of solar panels that we would need to create one of these things. We do not have the engineering or the scientific knowledge of the nuts and bolts of how to actually construct one of these. It's all theory. We've never actually tried it. And if you've ever been involved in any kind of scientific project, then you are well aware that between the theorizing stage and the engineering stage, a lot of stuff can go wrong. A lot of things change from those two stages. Essentially what happens is you have an egghead, like I used to be. That's a person that works in a think tank or in a program that is very, very intelligent, and their job is to come up with solutions to problems. So they'll say, the problem is we want to construct a Dyson Sphere, but we don't know how. Or they'll say the problem is we need to harness a giant amount of power. Let's start there. We need to generate a massive amount of energy in order to power this super AI. How are we going to do that? And then some egghead will say, well, a star has that kind of energy. So if we could produce this structure around a star that could capture all that energy, then that could power the AI. And then they would say, okay, that's a good idea. So then they take that idea from the egghead and they hand it over to teams of engineers. The engineers are the people that actually build stuff. They are your mechanics and your engineers, the ones that know how to get their hands dirty and know how to actually put it together and make it really work. They take the brilliant idea that the genius guy came up with, and they actually figure out how to make it a reality. Because in most cases, the idea that the genius comes up with is a great idea, but that's all it is an idea. And without the engineers, it never becomes reality because it's just an idea. The genius can't build it. You have very few people in this world that are like Tony Stark, that are very, very intelligent and able to come up with these brilliant ideas and can build them also. Usually it's one or the other. I'm a very, very smart guy, but I'm not the greatest builder, right? I can do basic things. I'm a redneck, so I can do basic things. I can work on a car. I can build structures. I can do basic things, but I'm not a mechanical genius. Now, my father and my brother are both mechanical geniuses. They can fix anything. I'll tell you a really funny story. When we were real little, my father was in the Air Force, and he wasn't a very high rank yet. And so he had to work, and my mom had to work in order to kind of keep the bills paid and provide my brother and I with decent stuff, you know. Not great stuff, because we were very poor growing up. But we had a little bit, you know, just to be able to have fun and order pizza and go to the movies and stuff. They both had to work. So that meant that me and my brother would be home alone for several hours after we got off school until one of them got home from work. So I was 4 years older than my little brother, so my job was to watch my little brother. Now I am an artist. I'm a writer. I was a musician for many years. I am an artist, and I have an artist's brain. I don't consider myself an extremely responsible person, and I wasn't at that age either. So basically I would get home, and I really didn't care about watching my brother. I wanted to do something that I was not allowed to do, which was play with the guitar. My father had this beautiful acoustic guitar, and he couldn't play it at all. He had no idea how to play it. He just always loved instruments. And I was not allowed to touch this guitar, essentially because I didn't know how to play it either, and he didn't want me to break it. But I'm a guy that always does what he wants. I don't care what the rules are. And I really wanted to play that guitar, so I would jimmy the lock on their bedroom door and get in and get the guitar first thing. And I would sit there and tinker with it. And I have this ability, I'm what they call an ear musician. I have this ability to hear a song and then be able to find it on any instrument I want to find it on and play it. So I would be strumming on the guitar and playing with it and figuring out how to play songs. That's what I would do. My brother, being the mechanical genius, keep in mind, he's a little kid at this point. You know, he can't be more than like 5 years old, 5 or 6 years old at this point. And he would go in and just grab something from the house, whether it was an alarm clock, a clock radio, the VCR, the microwave, whatever, that he wanted to figure out how it worked. He would grab it, unplug it, bring it into the living room, and he would sit it down on this very, very large blanket that he would lay out on the floor. And he would have a screwdriver, and he would just start taking it apart. And I was kind of like, I wouldn't do that if I was you, because you're going to get your ass handed to you when Dad gets home. When he finds out you took apart the VCR, he's not going to be able to watch a movie, and he's going to be pissed. My brother would just smile and just keep doing what he was doing, because he loved taking stuff apart. So by the end of this, my brother would have whatever he was working on completely disassembled, down to individual parts and screws. And he'd have it all laid out on the blanket. And he'd pick up each piece and turn it over in his hands and examine it and just smiling like you wouldn't believe, you know, just so happy. And then I would get in a panic because I'd be like, man, Mom and Dad are going to be home in like a half an hour and the entire VCR is taken apart on the floor. This is not cool, you know? And so I would start to panic and yell at him, dude, you got to put this back together. We got to do something. And he would just smile because he was not worried. And then he would put the entire thing back together, put it back where it went, like nothing ever happened. And not one time when he took anything apart did it ever not work when he put it back together. It was amazing. One of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. He was a very little child at that point. Now my brother is just like my father. They can both build anything. They can put anything together. Anything that's wrong with anything they can fix. So that is the two groups that are responsible for making something like a Dyson Sphere actually work. You got to have the guy that comes up with the idea. That's me. That's my kind of person. I'm the idea guy. And then you have to have a guy that can actually build it, which is my brother and my dad, right? And when I say guy, it's not just guys. There's a lot of women that do amazing work in both fields as well. But that's what you have to have. This is completely and totally theoretical. But they believe that if they can harness the power of a star, it'll be enough power for this super AI to create and power a complete universe that is created in the computer, like on software. It's like virtual. It's not real in any substantial way where you can touch it or feel it or go there. It's basically like a game of The Sims. And what they want to do is take your consciousness and upload it into that. It goes from the realm of science to the realm of philosophy. Because the question is that actually you? Because essentially what they're doing is they're going to be taking a scan of your brain and uploading the data to the cloud. In theory, this data would include your thoughts, your personality, your memories. That is what they are hoping for. I have no idea how they are going to capture those things. We don't have the ability to do that. But remember, we're talking theoretical future stuff here, so sky's the limit. You can think whatever you want. But the question is, and it's a philosophical and maybe even a religious question to some, but mainly I think a philosophical question, is that actually you? They can take your thoughts, your personality, your memories, and upload those into this synthetic universe, this simulated universe, into the Sims game, right, that they've created. But is that actually you? Will you be thinking? Will you be living there? Or are you still in your body? Because you don't die when they do this, okay? It's not like they do the scan, upload the data, and then you're dead because now you live in the cloud. No, you're still in your body. You're still a person, and you're still going to die a physical death. And then whatever happens to your soul at that point, heaven or hell, is going to happen. What is left there in the cloud is nothing more, in my opinion, than a fancy photograph or a fancy video of you. It is a computer simulation of you. It is your recorded thoughts, your recorded memories, your recorded personality, but it is just that, a recording. It's just like after I die and I go to heaven, there will be hundreds or maybe even thousands at that point episodes of Staring into the Abyss that radio stations will continue to play, that will continue to be on YouTube, that people will still be listening to. Now, that is me that you'll be listening to. You will hear my voice. You will hear my thoughts. You will hear my personality. But I will not be there. I will be gone. That's just a recording of me. And I think that this thing that they're talking about uploading into the cloud, that's exactly what that's going to be. It's just a recording of you. It's not actually going to be you. And the reason I say that is because, once again, when they do that recording of your mind, you are still alive at the end of it. You still live out the rest of your life. So if that was actually you, you would no longer be in your body. But they don't have the technology or the ability, and they never will, to actually capture your soul, which is you. They don't even have a real way to quantify or to prove that it actually even exists. They can't show you. They can't say, here, look, this is your soul. Let's do an MRI. There's your soul right there. They can't do that. There's no way to scientifically quantify that it's there. So I don't think that what they're talking about is actually going to be possible. I think what you're going to be left with at the end of all this is something that'll be really nice for the loved ones that you leave behind. So when you die and you go to heaven, or you die and you go to hell, your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, your parents, whatever, your friends, the people that loved you, will have this computer simulation of you that they can interact with. And they can watch your computer simulation, your avatar, if you will, live and react in this universe that has been created. But it isn't actually you. So as far as actual immortality, this is not going to be it. It's not going to be real. It's not going to be you. You are still going to hell, or you're still going to heaven. Or if you're an atheist and you don't believe in all that, and it makes you feel better for me to say you're still going to be buried or burnt or whatever, then whatever you want to believe. But the point is, you are not going to be living in a computer simulation paradise that Super AI has developed for you, because they have no way to actually capture your soul. It's just a recording of you, in my opinion. That's my thoughts on it. I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and get his thoughts on this and just see what he has to say. So go ahead, brother.
Thank you, brother. So let's get this straight, guys. I'm not a big genius on science. This is another one of James' thing, the Diosphere. I don't know much about this. And it's the cool thing about it is it's something new. You guys are learning something. What's my opinion is it sounds like the Matrix theory. Get yourself recorded and put it into a machine and make yourself live forever. It will never be you. It's a carbon copy of you. It might sound and look and act like you, but it's never going to be 100% you. You can never 100% accurately get something to copy you. You could copy it pretty close, but you're always going to be something different. That's just how it works in theory. Even twins are not the same. The Matrix, this is pretty similar to the Matrix. This is probably where he got it. Getting into the Matrix, my friend used to talk about this. It's kind of funny. He used to talk about how we could live forever if we put our head on in these machines. And I think there's other movies that are like that. I forget what it is. Looper and got a couple other ones. I forget what they were called. You could change your reality, just like Total Recall and stuff like that. It just sounds familiar. It also sounds to me like this guy has a thing about dying because he's obsessed with this because his friend died. He couldn't. I guess he probably was really close. And it probably bothered him, and it bothers a lot of people who want to live forever. It will never probably happen for a long time. We can't even go to Mars yet. So getting a star and making a diosphere around it's not going to happen today or in the next 50 years. So if they do get it, I think something else will be done before it. Living forever is, I think, in my opinion, is a lot of people's fear of dying. And I'm not a big science guy, guys, so I'm going to go on the way I'm going to be able to explain this. I'm not a mecha person, sorry, James, and I'm not that smart. I'm not stupid, but I'm not that smart. I think a lot of people want to live forever because they're afraid of dying. And I don't blame them. A lot of people don't want to die, especially you want to have people live that died young or something tragic happened to them and you want to bring them back. But things are meant, I think, are meant to happen. And if you play that card, you're going to pay for it. There's going to be some reaction to it. It won't work out the way you think. I think there's stuff it's just meant to happen. And it's just how it goes in your life. And I think some people can't handle that. They want to live forever. Well, you ever see Interview with Vampires? Because they're immortal, guys. Unless they, sun, and some vampires can live in through the sun and stakes to the heart. But if you watch Interview with Vampire, it's sad life. For hundreds of years, you see people you love die. You might find a person you love, and they die. And if you turn them into a vampire, that's selfish because what if they didn't want to turn into a vampire and they just wanted to live a normal life? So you saw people you love die. I think people don't realize the reality of it. But that's a whole different thing. It would never really be you. You could probably do that now. Get an image and put it in a computer and you'd be living forever. You could probably make a video game with you in it running around and there you go. Now, like James is saying with staring into the abyss and stuff we do on Facebook, that's going to be forever because they're always going to play YouTube. They're always going to play these. That's going to be us. That was the essence of our voice that recorded us. Just like a video you got, that's us. You took stuff from it and made a copy of us. It's still never going to be 100% us. It's not going to be a living, breathing us. Now, cloning is a whole different world. You take a part of me cloning, but that doesn't mean we're going to have the same thinking. It could be a total different clone, even better. So, but still will never do the same thing. So it's always going to be a carbon copy. And that's just the truth. And that's just reality. That's not a theory. That's just true. And I think you're playing with fire on that because I think people will try to use it for gain, money, try to trade. That it all in comes to trying to go back in time to change history. If you live forever and you can't die, then there's no consequences. I think it's a really crazy game you play with. You're rolling the dice on that. Now, if you put it in the computer simulator, then you're always going to be in that. It's like you ever seen the Time Machine, the new one, not the old one, the new one. They got the guy, it's in the computer and you could talk to him and he's a real AI, but it's his essence of what he used to be. In Player One, they had the same thing. They had a computer animatronic hologram. Same thing. You could ask something in it to talk to you in real time. But still, whoever the person was they took it from is never going to be. It's just a carbon copy of them, an essence of what they used to be. So it will never be the original. So you could live forever, but why would you? In that world, it wouldn't make a difference because it's not like the world we're living in right now. We have to pay bills. You don't have to worry about anything. You're just doing stuff for information. But if it was like this, you lived forever, like as a regular human being, like we are now, and you just never died, I guess it wouldn't be that bad. I mean, your body would still rot away unless they could find a way your body doesn't go away. I mean, it wouldn't be a horrible thing because if everybody lived forever, it wouldn't make a difference. You would just live forever and go on and on and on and nothing would ever change. Then that would be fine. But if you're a vampire or immortal Highlander, doesn't even just have to be a vampire. The Highlander series, they were immortal unless they lost their head. And there's other werewolves are pretty much almost there. They live for hundreds of years, even thousands. I'm just, shapeshifters, stuff like that. But eventually you're going to see people you care about die. Your family, your kids. And I guess you wouldn't really care anyway because you wouldn't have much of a heart for anything. So it probably wouldn't bother you. So I don't really know. I don't know if I would want to live forever. I mean, the way things are going and changing, I probably wouldn't do it. Unless it's like computers, a whole different story. It's like a giant game, but you're reliving a life over and over. So it wouldn't really make a difference anyway, because that's a carbon copy of you. That's not really you. It's a computer generated form of you. So it wouldn't make a difference. You would live forever then, basically, but as a different thing. But like my body right now, no. I don't know if I want to live forever. That's just be boring after a while. Say you're living on 1,000 years, you'd want to leave. I don't know where you're going to leave. Maybe you don't want to live anymore. I don't know what you do. You wouldn't have to sleep anymore. You wouldn't have to eat. You live forever. That would be kind of cool, but it kind of suck too, because if you like your favorite foods, well, but what if you could eat? It doesn't matter if you do or not, but you just can eat and eat and eat. You never gain weight, never lose weight. You never go to sleep, never nothing. You don't have to take a rest, nothing. So that would be cool, but I kind of like resting and taking a nap. You wouldn't nothing would really matter anymore. I mean, there's good and bad things from it. I mean, nothing really matters and there's no really point of you. The challenge of living is always cool because you have so little time to do so much. I know that's a weird saying, but you have so little time to do so much. So think about that, guys. Everything you do, when we have time to do it, you never know what's going to happen. You could die tomorrow or 10 minutes from now or 100 years from now. You never know. But I think people always forget that. And I think that's something everybody forgets all the time is how precious life is and what we do in that time while we're here and how we lived our life. And I think a lot of people get confused and misunderstand that they don't have much time here. Whatever you believe in or what's going to happen, you're not going to live here forever. And I think people take it for granted and they don't think about it. And then when they do, they think about everything they've done wrong and, I feel bad. But you knew the consequences in life. Most people do. And I think people realize it too late. So the way I live my life and everybody else should live like you're going to never live it again. And that's the way you should, because life is serious. People say don't take life too serious. I do, because you only have one. You don't know what's going to happen. And, we all have difference of beliefs what's going to happen after you die. But as this life, whatever, if some people have lived different lives and all kinds of other lives. It could be true, it could not. But life is pretty much like rolling the dice. Like I said before, so little time, so much to do. We are never going to do everything we wanted to do in our life. It's just never going to happen. I guess if you live in forever, you're going to be able to do that. But I still think there's always going to be something you want to do. But that's my opinion on that. I just don't. I'm not a big fan of living forever. I never have been. I could care less. I think when I was a kid, that was cool. I was into vampires and stuff, and I was into goth, and I still am. But then I was like, when I was 18 in my 20s, I was in my early teens. I really loved vampires. I really wanted to live forever. But after I seen life for the last 25 years, I don't really want to. It'd be boring to me. After a couple hundred years, centuries, I'd be bored, and I want to leave. I want to go. I don't want to be here forever. What the hell for? I just would get tired of it. But that's me. I'm a different person. I'm unique. I'm a different breed altogether. And James knows that. Says James. I don't think he would want to live forever either. It annoys me. We're different kind of people. We should have been born in a different era. We would have been really the Brothers Grimm's in that era. Maybe we were there before. Something like us was there before. And we fought all these creatures we talk about all the time because that's the way we want to go out on our shield. But in this day and age, it ain't probably going to happen. But that was a different time in a different world. So there you go, James. I hope you enjoyed my little commentary.
I wouldn't want to live forever in this fallen world. But there's a couple things that are certain. It is absolute fact that every single one of us are going to die at some point. It's also, as far as I'm concerned, fact that death is not the end. Now, whether you are a religious person and you believe in heaven and hell, or whether you're an atheist, either way, it doesn't end for you. We know this because we have been on investigations and we have seen ghosts and we have talked to them. So we know that they exist. So if ghosts exist, then it is not a leap of logic to say that death is not the end. You still exist after you die. The question is, as what? And what happens when you die? And that's where religion comes into it and all of that. Now, I could go on for hours about religion. I have before. You know that. I'm very well versed in the Bible. But that's not the purpose of this show. Let's look at it scientifically. If they were able to truly achieve immortality, to where you live forever in your human body, you do not die, you're not uploaded to some BS simulation, you're not putting a carbon copy of yourself inside of a clone, none of that garbage, because none of that's going to work. If they could figure out a way to grow organs, which they're already working on that, through 3D printing and everything, they can actually print tissue. So they're going to be able to print organs, and you're going to be able to have actual tissue that is your own tissue. It's grown from your own cells. So they'll be able to grow you a new heart that your body will not reject because it is made from your own cells. So those cells, those stem cells, will become heart cells. And they will construct and print a heart for you that will match your body completely because it is you. Once that technology gets really good and they are able to continually replace parts and you're able to keep living, then you run into the question of, now what? The reason why things kind of work on Earth is because we're born, we grow up, we have children, we die. Our children go through the same exact little process. And it just keeps on rolling along, generation after generation. Well, now imagine that the overwhelming majority of people are no longer dying. Well, it doesn't take very long before this Earth is not fit to live in anymore. Because there's too many damn people here. I mean, hell, there's too many people here now. I feel sorry for people like Old Boy that live in California. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of people in California. He's talking about his little area of California, which he doesn't live like in a major city. He lives like in the desert. And there's still more people in that damn desert probably than I even have in my entire state. That's crazy. My little town maybe has 4,000 or 5,000 people, maybe. And I don't even live in town. I live up in the mountain out of town. So there's only a handful of people up here. I could not imagine living in a place that had millions of people. Now multiply that many times over. Because each one of these people that are living forever, instead of having 1 or 2 children, now they're having 20, 30, 40, 50 children because you keep living. And unless you're going to live celibate, you're going to keep having kids. As we keep replacing parts, your body's not going to be all broken down anymore because you're going to have new parts. So one of two things needs to happen. If they ever achieve this, they have to either stop people from having babies, or we have got to start colonizing the rest of the universe. Now, I think colonizing the rest of the universe is the better idea. Because, well, honestly, because of a couple different factors. One, you're not going to get people to stop having babies. So unless you come up with some kind of sterilization technique you can put in the water or something that'll cause people to become sterile so they can't have babies, unless you can do that and are willing to do that, the better answer is just to start colonizing other planets. You know, we start with the closest planet that we have that we can live on. And we go there and we start colonizing it. And then we move from there to another. It's like playing a game of hopscotch, or like you're skipping rocks over a pond. Each time that rock hits the water is another jump to another planet. And we just keep on going. We use each one as a launching point towards the next one. Eventually, we may get to the point where our technology is good enough that we can actually begin to terraform planets. And what that means is change the atmosphere of that planet so that it will sustain human life. Before that happens, we're going to have to build domes and giant space stations, giant like domed in facilities that have oxygen pumped into them and all of that stuff in order to live. But eventually we might be able to terraform planets to where we can survive there and just keep spreading out across the universe. That is the answer. And I think whether we can achieve immortality or not, I think that's still going to be a very important thing to do. Because we like to live. And we like freedom. And we like to do our own thing. And one problem with having a lot of people around is it's harder to do what you want. I live way out away from everybody. I can do whatever the hell I want. I built my own cannon and blew a hole in my barn. I'm free to do those things because I live in America. And I take my freedom very seriously. Because I want to be able to do whatever I want to do. Now, if I lived in the middle of a city, all of a sudden I can't do what I want to do anymore because there's other people that it will affect. I can't just build a cannon and start firing it because there's people all around, everywhere. I might hit somebody. And imagine how crazy populated the earth will get if people stop dying. I mean, I think the stat, I don't remember the exact stat, I read it at one point, but I think like every second or two somebody dies on this planet and somebody else is born. Imagine that. Like, we're sitting here talking right now, somebody just died. Now somebody else just died. Now somebody else just died. Now somebody else just died. You see what I'm saying? Now imagine you're able to become immortal. You stop people dying. The only time you die is when you choose to die. How long is it going to be before there's too many damn people? And not only is it a pain in the ass to get anywhere and people annoy you and they're always in your way and all that, but you also have to think about how are we going to feed all these people? How are we going to create enough electricity to be able to heat their homes in the winter? How are people not going to be starving? How are people not going to be freezing? How are people not going to be murdering each other? Because they're so fed up and just aggravated by people being around them all the time. Those are definite problems that require solutions if we're able to live forever. Now, I think there will be a certain percentage that after living for a while, will decide they don't want to do this anymore. And then you will have a procedure, a medical procedure, they can go in and kind of get put down like a dog. It'll be much more humane than that, but essentially that's what they'll be doing. They'll be choosing to die. You will have that happen. But I don't think that it will be anywhere near the amount that will be necessary to keep the population in check. That's going to be a huge problem. And I think, honestly, that's going to start to become a huge problem whether we are able to become immortal or not, because there's only so many resources. And even if you build giant skyscrapers on every inch of available area to house people, you still got to somehow heat all that. You got to keep them warm. You got to somehow feed all those people. You have to have enough clean drinking water for all those people. That's not an easy task. That's going to require more than we can produce. Easily more than we can produce. And then you have to, there has to be a math problem that's done where you think, how much available farmland are we going to have, and how many people are there going to be that require food? As the amount of people goes up, the amount of farmland needed to provide food for those people will have to go up. But also the amount of space needed to house all those people will go up. So that will shrink the amount of available farmland. So then you're talking, okay, we can no longer eat corn and tomatoes and bananas and all the kinds of stuff we normally eat. We can't do that anymore because there's just no damn room to grow that stuff anymore. So now we have to think more along the lines of sustainable protein. Insects. You can grow thousands and thousands and thousands of crickets in little towers that you can fit thousands of inside of a garage. And each one of those towers contains thousands and thousands of crickets. So you can take all those crickets, you can grind them up into flour, and you can feed people that way. Is it gross? Yes. But will it work? Also yes. Because you don't require anywhere near the amount of space to grow these crickets. And you can provide more protein using insects than you will ever get out of cow. But we just have to be able to get over the yuck factor of it. I think the fact that it's not going to look like a bug anymore will go a long way towards helping with that. Because they'll be able to take these crickets, grind them up into flour, as I said, and create foods that we're used to eating, like breads and cakes and cookies and muffins and stuff like that. So when we look at it, we're going to see bread. We're not going to look at it and see cricket. You see what I'm saying? That capability exists now. They have cricket flour you can buy now. I think that is one possible solution to a vastly expanding population and a dwindling of land available for farming. At some point, that equation is going to tip to where there just won't be enough land to farm to provide food for all the people. And when you reach that point, that's when it really gets bad. Because people are still going to want to eat. And there will still be people that have food. And the people that don't have the food are going to try to take it from the people that do. Because they're not just going to die. They're not just going to sit there and starve to death and allow their children and their wife to starve to death. It's not going to happen. They're going to take what you have to survive. And then you're talking wars. You're talking violence. You're talking all kinds of crazy, crazy stuff that could happen. So if scientists are trying to think of a way to become truly immortal, then they also need to start considering all of those things as well. Because those are definitely going to be issues that are going to come. This show, to me, is special because we can talk about a whole lot of different things. We started off talking about these Dyson Spheres and how they want to harness the power of stars in order to power a super AI to create a simulated universe that they can upload your memories and all that stuff into to make you live forever. And we've gone from that all the way to overpopulation and flour made from bugs and just all kinds of interesting stuff. That is what is needed in this world, in my opinion. There needs to be, and this should be taught to children in school. It's not taught enough. We focus in school, or at least we used to focus in school, on the basics. We focused on reading, writing, arithmetic, science, history. That was the important stuff. And we didn't really focus on lateral thinking and thinking outside of the box, basically, and problem solving and trying to figure out solutions to different things. Children aren't taught to sit around in a group and discuss things and just say, hey, here's the issue we're trying to fix. Here's the problem. Everybody kind of spitball ideas. Let's throw everything at the wall here. Let's see what sticks. Let's see what seems like a good idea to the most people, and let's figure out a way to make it happen. That isn't done anymore in school. It was done in a small way when I was in school. Once I got involved with Mensa and the government programs and working for NASA and all that stuff, once all that started happening, there was a lot more of that, because then it was all about, hey, we have this problem we need a solution to. We can't figure out how to make this thing happen, whatever that thing happened to be at the time. We need ideas. So then you come up with ideas, they send it off to the engineers, those people make it work, and you solve problems. And that is how society moves forward. That is the innovation and the work that needs to be done, if that makes sense. When you teach children to all think the same, you are going to kill innovation. Now, I'm not saying don't teach them history, don't teach them science. No, definitely teach them those things. Teach them math, teach them, grammar, teach them reading, writing, all that. The basics, teach them, yes, absolutely. But I think once you reach a certain point in school, there needs to be at least one class to where there is no textbook for it, where you're not going in there and just memorizing stuff so you can write it down on a test and then forget about it the second you write it down. How much stuff do you actually remember from school? If I was to ask you specific dates of things that happened in history, you couldn't tell me off the top of your head. If I was to ask you basically almost anything about what you learned in school way back then, there's not a lot you could really tell me that you can really recall. But if I taught you how to think, right? If I taught you how to look at a problem and think outside of the box and come up with different solutions, different creative ways of solving that problem, you would take that skill set with you for the rest of your life. And that is what is necessary to do amazing things like this, right? That's what's necessary to build the world of tomorrow. When I was growing up, I always thought we were going to have flying cars, man. I grew up on the Jetsons. I wanted flying cars. When I thought of the year 2000, and especially when I thought of like 2020 and 2021, I thought we'd have flying cars by now. We don't have flying cars. The reason we don't have flying cars is because you can't trust people with flying cars, because people are idiots, a lot of them, and they will crash into crap. And we can't have people flying around crashing into crap. I think that's the main reason we don't have flying cars. The reason why we don't have this miracle world of tomorrow that we all envisioned would be here is because for the majority of people, you did not teach them how to think and how to invent and how to innovate. You taught them how to memorize and regurgitate facts. That's all you taught them in school. You go there, you learn 1492, Columbus discovered America. Okay, I can write that on a piece of paper. I turn it in. Okay, I got an A. Wonderful. Well, then a little bit of time goes by, and maybe if you're lucky and you're in a good high school, they teach you, well, Columbus didn't exactly discover America. He actually landed in the Bahamas. He got close, but he didn't actually discover America. Maybe you don't learn that until college. Maybe you don't learn that at all. Maybe you learn that from reading a book like I did in the library. I wasn't taught that in school. I was taught that Columbus discovered America. But that's not what the truth is, but that's what I was taught. I was taught that George Washington chopped down a cherry tree. And when asked about it, he said, I cannot tell a lie. It was I that chopped down that cherry tree. That wasn't true. That's not a real thing that happened. That's BS. That's a story. He never did that. I was taught that George Washington had wooden teeth. They taught me that in school. That was also complete garbage. That's not true. He had all kinds of teeth. He even had teeth made of whalebone. How awesome is that? But he had no wooden teeth at all. It's complete fabrication. So why are they teaching us stuff that isn't true, and they're not teaching us important things that we need to know? That's what I want to know. Now, at this point, I'm not just talking about thinking outside of the box and innovation. I'm also talking about, why aren't they teaching you the damn life skills that you actually need to survive in the world? Why aren't they teaching you in school how to balance a checkbook, how to budget out your monthly and weekly expenses? Why aren't they teaching you how to change a tire? Why aren't they teaching you the basics of first aid so that if somebody is dying or gets injured, you can help them? All of those things are very important life things that we should know. But we don't get taught in school. Instead, we get taught facts about things that we're never going to remember. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think another thing that would be really cool, and we used to have in school when I was coming up, I don't know if they still do, but when I was in school, it was a club you had to join. It wasn't like a class, it was a club. But I think learning debate in school is a great idea. And I don't mean debate as far as standing up at a microphone and you're going to debate one side of an issue, I'm going to debate another, and we're going to do that in front of an audience. That's not really what I mean. I mean learning how to have conversations with other human beings and disagree on things and disagree on issues and debate each other without getting all upset, getting your feelings hurt, insulting each other, and ending up fighting. Good, honest, healthy debate is crucial for society to move forward. You have to be able to exchange ideas. You have to be able to talk to each other and be able to say, hey, here's my idea for this. Oh, yeah, well, that idea sucks. Here's my idea. Oh, you know what? That idea is better. You have to be able to have those conversations. But we're reaching a point in our world where you just can't. You can't do that anymore. You can't even talk to people anymore because everybody is so offended and so upset and so mad all the time about every damn thing. And I think that's another huge problem. Now, let's put that, what I just said, let's put that in a world where people don't die. And you are dealing with the same people for hundreds of years. How angry do you think that you would end up getting? That's a big, big question. So that's about all the time that we have for this episode. So I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy and get his final sum up and shout outs, and then we will close out.
Thank you, brother. And I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. This is really cool and really interesting. It went from one thing, and we're still talking pretty much the same thing. So I want to thank everybody on Parax Radio every Sunday night listening to us. We love you guys. all the followers from YouTube. Remember, if you guys want to follow James Hershey and our show, it's on James Hershey Jr.'s YouTube page. He'll tell you where to go. I also want to give a shout out to Christina Carcelli. She's from Salem, Massachusetts, one of my friends, and she has a paranormal magazine you guys need to check out called Beyond the Gravestone. It's on Haunted Collection website.com. Check it out. Her first magazine, the first magazine she has done is sold out completely. And there should be the next one. She's going to have a little surprise, and it has to do with us. I'm just not going to say nothing. You also want to check her out on, she also is a paranormal investigator. So she has a paranormal investigator group called strategicparanormal.com. Check them out. She's a really cool person. Awesome. One of the really good friends I've met. You guys also want to get any merchandise from us, shirts, hoodies, COVID masks, mugs, iPhone cases. He'll tell you where to go. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is a really good episode, something different. So I hope everybody has a good weekend and a great night. Misfits, sugar ladies, monster lovers, and demon hunters. I love you and blessed be, and have a great night.
I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. This is one of those ones for me that is a hell of a lot of fun to do. Let us know down in the comment section of the YouTube video when we put this episode on YouTube what y'all think of the whole show, really, about Dyson Spheres, about immortality, about living forever, all of that stuff. I'd be interested to see what you have to say. I'm not going to waste any more time because I think we're probably over time by now. So all I want to say is thank you, and I love you, and I will catch you on the next episode. Until I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.